It's my first year as a high school science teacher. And I'm so eager, so excited. I'm pouring myself into my lesson plans. But I'm slowly coming to this horrifying realization that my students might not be learning anything. This happens one day. I just assigned my students to read this amazing textbook chapter about my favorite subject in all of biology. Viruses and how they attack. Yeah. And so I asked the class, can anybody please tell me why this is so cool? There's silence. Finally, my favorite student raises her hand and says, "The reading sucked." I guess I don't mean that the reading sucked. I mean, I didn't understand a word of it. Sympathetic smiles spread all throughout the room. And I realized that all of my students were in the same boat. They might have memorized definitions, read the textbook chapter, done this, done that, but at the end of the day, they hadn't learned a thing. So I started to panic. I had no idea what to do. So I gathered my thoughts and I said, "Hey, let me tell you a story." Before the first alphabet was even invented, humans were telling stories to explain why things happened the way they did, why lightning struck, or how to spot the sweetest orange. Yet with the advent of hardcore academics across the world, this misguided notion has come up that facts should be left to the sciences and storytelling to the arts. While that may work for those already in love with the subject, it provides a vast barrier for those struggling to get familiar with it. To this, in a 2017 TEDx speech, MIT-trained science teacher Tyler DeWitt brilliantly tells us, "Hey, science teachers, make it fun." So kids, the main characters in this story are bacteria and viruses. Now, there's this happy little bacterium who's going along its day as a normal bacterium should, until it starts not to feel so good. Maybe it ate something bad for lunch. And then things get really serious. The bacterium bursts open with viruses spilling out of its guts into the air. Now, if you're a bacterium and you see this happening, this is your worst nightmare. But if you're a virus and you see this, you cross those little arms of yours and you say, "We rock." Because it took a lot of crafty work to infect this bacterium. Think of it like this. DNA is like a blueprint that tells living things what to do and what to make. So this virus kind of went into a bacterium, think of it as a car factory, and switched out the blueprints for cars with blueprints for killer robots. The workers come in, get the job done, but they're simply following different instructions. And they keep on making more killer robots, and more killer robots, and more killer robots, until inevitably the bacterium bursts, with viruses spilling out of its guts. Yeah. Now, that's only one of two ways that viruses infect bacteria. The second involves secret agent viruses. When a secret agent virus comes into the scene, it does a little bit of espionage. It takes a tiny snippet of its DNA and slips it right into the bacterium. But here's the kicker. It doesn't do anything harmful. Not at first. Instead, it silently lies in wait, like a terrorist sleeper cell, waiting for instructions. And the signal happens, and then boom! The viruses spill out every which way and take a hold of the bacterium until inevitably the bacterium dies. Now, that wasn't too hard, right? And now you understand the concept. But why did my 14-year-old high school students hate it so much? Well, I can guarantee you that the textbook didn't use secret agent viruses or terrorist sleeper cells. Instead, in the communication of science, there's this obsession with seriousness. It kills me. I used to work for an educational publisher, and they told me to never, ever use fun or engaging language, because then my work wouldn't be viewed as serious or scientific. I mean, God forbid we actually have fun when we're learning about science, right? And that's only one part of the problem. The second is the language we use. If we wanted to summarize the relatively fun and simple story I told you earlier, it could begin like this. Viruses create copies of themselves by slipping tiny segments of their DNA into bacteriums. Simple, right? But this is how it looked like in the textbook. Bacteriophage replication is initiated through a series of transfers of viral nucleic acid into a bacterium. That's perfect. Perfect for the average 14-year-old mind. But there are people in science education who would look at this and say, there's no way we can give this to 14-year-olds. But not because it was overcomplicated, but because it wasn't complicated enough. They'd find fault with almost every single word. And they'd change it. Not into something more easily read or understandable, but into something you couldn't understand at all. Science communication has taken on what I like to call as the tyranny of precision, where science communication becomes that one annoying friend we all have that says, actually. Like, dude, we had to get up in the middle of the night and drive 100 miles in total darkness. And that actually, friend? Actually, it was 87.3 miles. And you're like, actually? Shut up. Because I'm trying to tell a story. Because storytelling requires emotional connection. But what's just as important is knowing what useless details to leave out so that the main point still comes across. As great architect Mies van der Rohe once said, and I paraphrase, sometimes you gotta lie to tell the truth. And I wish change could come from the institutions at the top. I've begged them. I've beseeched them. But I think that change is slow to happen. Which is why I'm so glad we have resources like the internet, where we can reinvent these institutions from the bottom up. I myself, in most of my free time, create videos for YouTube explaining chemical equilibrium with stories about awkward middle school dances, and Fuel Cell with stories about boys and girls at summer camp. But the work is not yet over, which is why I ask you all, join me, pick up a pen, write a blog, make a video. It doesn't matter. Make me laugh, but most importantly, make me care. And how should you start? How about this? Let me tell you a story. Thank you.